I was sitting in a restaurant waiting for my fiancée. Today I was going to propose to her. But when she walked in, there was already a ring on her finger. Not mine. And she was holding my best friend's hand. I had it all planned out. The corner table at Bellini's, her favorite restaurant where we had our first date. 3 years of memories culminated in this moment, the ring burning a hole in my pocket, my heart thundering against my ribs. I checked my watch for the 5th time in as many minutes. Lauren was never late. Not for important things. And she knew tonight was important. The maitre d' approached with a concerned smile. "More wine, sir. While you wait." I nodded, watching the crimson liquid swirl in my glass. 3 years. 1,095 days of building a life with Lauren. Late nights planning our future. Weekends looking at houses in neighborhoods with good schools. Working double shifts at the firm to save for the down payment on our dream home. The bell above the door chimed, and my heart leapt. But it wasn't the sound that made my blood freeze in my veins. It was the laughter, Lauren's laughter, floating through the restaurant before I even saw her face. That wasn't her meeting my boyfriend laugh. That was her unrestrained, head thrown back laugh that I'd spent years earning the right to hear. And then I saw them. Lauren, radiant in a blue dress I'd never seen before, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders. And Dan. My best friend since college. My business partner. The best man to my never-happening groom. His hand was on the small of her back, a gesture so intimate it made my stomach lurch. But it was the glint of something on her left hand that truly shattered my world. A diamond ring, catching the candlelight as she gestured animatedly. They hadn't seen me yet. I watched, detached, as though viewing someone else's nightmare, as the hostess led them to a table across the room. I saw Dan pull out her chair, whisper something in her ear that made her smile, that secret smile she used to reserve for me. Our eyes met across the room. Lauren's smile faltered, then disappeared completely. She clutched Dan's arm, whispering urgently. His head whipped around, eyes widening when he saw me. I didn't yell. I didn't flip tables or cause a scene. I simply stood, placed $100 bill under my untouched wine glass, and walked out. The cool evening air hit my face as I stepped outside, but it couldn't numb the burning in my chest. My phone buzzed, Lauren calling. I silenced it and kept walking. By the time I reached my apartment, something had shifted inside me. The initial shock gave way to a cold, calculated clarity. This wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated. Planned. And if they had planned this, what else had they planned? I spent the night piecing together fragments of conversations, seemingly innocent comments that now took on sinister meanings. Dan asking about my investment portfolio, just out of professional curiosity. Lauren suggesting I add her name to my bank accounts, in case something happens to you. The house we were going to buy next month with my savings, titled in both our names. By morning, I had a plan. First, I called my lawyer, Michael. We'd been friends since law school, and he specialized in financial protection. "Adam, are you sure about this?" he asked after I explained my suspicions. "Check the accounts," I told him. "That's all I ask." 2 hours later, Michael called back. "You were right," he said grimly. "There have been withdrawals, small enough not to raise immediate red flags, but they add up to nearly $50,000 over the past 6 months. And the real estate deal? The paperwork lists you as the sole financier, but the deed would have been in both names. Adam, there's more. Lauren's applied for a loan in your name. A big one. The bank flagged it for verification, which is why it hasn't gone through yet." The pieces fell into place. They weren't just leaving me, they were planning to clean me out first. My money. My home. My business. "What do you want to do?" Michael asked. "Everything," I said calmly. "I want to do everything. Over the next week, I moved methodically. First, I transferred all my personal assets to new accounts Lauren had no access to. Then, I instructed Michael to block the loan application and flag Lauren's financial activity. I documented every discrepancy, every unauthorized withdrawal. I changed the passwords on all my accounts and had Michael draft a letter to the real estate agent withdrawing from the purchase. At the office, I reviewed the company books. Dan had been handling our finances for years, I trusted him completely. Looking now with suspicious eyes, I found irregularities dating back months. Small transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Expenses attributed to clients who didn't exist. I took my findings to our third partner, Jessica, who had always been the most detail-oriented of us all. Her face grew progressively paler as she reviewed my evidence. "He's been skimming from the company," she confirmed, her voice tight with anger. "Adam, we need to act quickly." Together, we executed the contingency plan outlined in our partnership agreement, a clause Dan himself had insisted on years ago, ironically enough. By close of business, Dan's access to company accounts was severed, his partnership stake frozen pending investigation. Neither Lauren nor Dan had reached out since that night at the restaurant, which confirmed my suspicions. They thought I was at home, nursing my wounds, unaware of their scheme. They were giving me space, time they thought they were using to finalize their plans. I let them think that. After 10 days of silence, I texted them both, "We need to talk. Café Lumière, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Café Lumière was neutral ground, a place we'd all frequented over the years. I arrived early, selecting a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. I placed a manila folder on the table and waited. They arrived together, of course. Lauren looked nervous, fidgeting with her new ring. Dan wore the confident expression I'd seen him use in tough negotiations. He thought this was going to be a simple conversation where they'd break the news, officially, and perhaps even secure my blessing. "Adam," Lauren said as they approached, her voice gentle in the way one might speak to a wounded animal. "It's good to see you." I didn't stand to greet them. "Sit down," I said calmly. They exchanged a glance before taking their seats. Dan cleared his throat. "Look, man, I know this must be a shock." "Lauren," I interrupted, "did you really think I wouldn't find out about the loan application you submitted in my name?" Her face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" "And Dan," I continued, opening the folder, "these are copies of transactions you've made from the company accounts to your personal holdings. That's embezzlement." His confident facade crumbled. That's not possible. There must be some mistake." "No mistake," I said, sliding the documents across the table. "The loan has been denied and flagged as fraud. The house deal is cancelled. And as of yesterday, you've been removed as a partner in the firm, pending criminal charges." Lauren reached for Dan's hand, panic rising in her eyes. "Adam, please, let's talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about. You're both lucky I haven't gone to the police yet. But everything has been documented. One wrong move, and I will." "You can't do this," Dan said, his voice rising. "We built that company together." "Yes, we did. And then you stole from it to fund whatever future you two were planning behind my back. Jessica has seen all the evidence. She's fully on board with your removal." Lauren's composure finally broke. "You've ruined everything," she hissed, tears streaming down her face. "We had plans. A future. Plans built on my money, my home, and my business," I replied evenly. "You have nothing now." Dan stood abruptly, pulling Lauren up with him. "This isn't over," he threatened. "Actually, it is," I said, looking directly at Lauren. "By the way, I've informed your parents about the fraud attempt. They were quite shocked. Your father asked me to tell you not to come home." That was the final blow. Lauren's relationship with her conservative parents had always been fragile. Her father, a judge, would be devastated by his daughter's involvement in financial fraud. "You've destroyed my life," Lauren whispered, her voice breaking. I finally stood, gathering the documents back into the folder. "No, Lauren. You tried to destroy mine." As I walked past them toward the exit, I felt no triumph, no satisfaction. Just a hollow emptiness where 3 years of trust and love had been. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by the remnants of the life we'd planned together. Photos of vacations, holidays with our families, the blueprints for the house that would never be ours. I should have felt victorious. I'd protected myself, exposed their scheme, delivered consequences. Instead, I found myself wondering where it had all gone wrong. Had Lauren ever loved me? Had Dan always been waiting for his chance? Or had something changed along the way, something I missed while I was working those late nights to build our future? My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "The paperwork is filed. Dan's office is being cleared out tomorrow." "You did the right thing, Adam." Did I? The right thing would have been confronting them immediately that night at the restaurant. Demanding answers. Hearing their side. Maybe there was an explanation I hadn't considered. But then I remembered the systematic withdrawals from my accounts. The fraudulent loan application. The company funds Dan had siphoned away. This wasn't a momentary lapse of judgment or a passionate affair that got out of hand. This was calculated. Planned. A long con perpetrated by the two people I trusted most. No, I decided. I'd done exactly what was necessary. Protected myself. Preserved my dignity. Secured my future. My phone buzzed again. "Lauren, I never meant for it to go this far. Can we talk? Just us?" I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to agree, to hear whatever explanation or justification she might offer. But I knew it would only be more manipulation, more lies. I typed a simple response: "There's nothing left to say." Then I blocked her number, along with Dan's. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into work. Jessica and I restructured the company, bringing in a new partner to replace Dan. We implemented stricter financial controls. The business not only survived but thrived without Dan's involvement. I sold my apartment and moved to a new neighborhood across town, somewhere with no memories of Lauren. I donated her left-behind clothes and returned her family heirlooms through Michael, with no note attached. 6 months after that night at Bellini's, I ran into Lauren's sister, Emma, at a coffee shop. She hesitated before approaching my table. "Adam," she said softly. "How are you?" "I'm managing," I replied honestly. "How's Lauren?" Emma sighed, sitting down without waiting for an invitation. "She and Dan broke up. Turns out he was using her too, in his own way. He's moved to Chicago. She's back with our parents, trying to put her life back together." I nodded, unsure how to respond. Part of me felt a grim satisfaction, but it was overwhelmed by a wave of sadness for what could have been. "She talks about you sometimes," Emma continued. "Says she made the biggest mistake of her life." "It wasn't a mistake," I said firmly. "It was a choice. Multiple choices, over months." Emma nodded. "I know. What they did was unforgivable. I guess I wanted you to know that she's suffering too." "Good," I said, then immediately regretted the harshness. "I mean, I don't wish her ill, Emma. I just needed to protect myself." "I understand." She stood to leave, then paused. "She got help, you know. Therapy. Turns out she's got some serious issues with self-sabotage. Not that it excuses anything." I watched Emma leave, her words echoing in my mind. Lauren was getting help. Facing consequences. Learning from her mistakes. Was that enough? Could anything ever be enough to rebuild the trust that had been so thoroughly shattered? I didn't know. And for the first time in months, I allowed myself to acknowledge that I might never know. Some broken things stay broken, no matter how carefully you try to piece them back together. That night, I found the engagement ring I'd planned to give Lauren, still nestled in its velvet box at the back of my dresser drawer. I'd spent months choosing it, saving for it, imagining her face when she saw it. I considered selling it, but something stopped me. Not hope, I was long past that. Maybe just a recognition that this chapter of my life, painful as it was, had shaped me. Had taught me about resilience, about self-preservation, about the importance of seeing people for who they really are, not who you want them to be. I placed the ring back in the drawer. A reminder. Not of what I'd lost, but of what I'd survived. The next morning, I woke to an email from Lauren. The subject line simply read, "Goodbye." I hovered over the delete button, then sighed and opened it. "Adam," it read, "I'm moving to Seattle next week. A fresh start. Before I go, I wanted to tell you that I've paid back every cent I took from you. Check your old account, the one we used to share. It's all there, with interest. I know money can't fix what I broke, but it's the only restitution I know how to make. I've also sent a signed confession to Michael about the loan application, taking full responsibility. Use it however you need to. I won't contest anything. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I am sorry, more than words can express. You deserved better. You always did. Be happy, Adam. Please." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I checked the old account. She was telling the truth. Every dollar was there. I called Michael, who confirmed receiving Lauren's confession. "What do you want to do with it?" he asked. I thought for a long moment. "File it away," I finally said. "Just in case. Just in case." Because despite everything, despite the betrayal and the theft and the lies, a small part of me wanted to believe she was genuinely sorry. That people could change. That sometimes, the hard lessons we learn from our worst mistakes can lead us to become better versions of ourselves. But the larger part of me, the part that had been forged in the fire of betrayal, knew better than to trust again so easily. Knew that actions have consequences that ripple outward, changing the landscape of our lives in ways we can never fully predict or control. They had thought they would leave me with nothing. Instead, they had left me with the most valuable lesson of all, that I was stronger than I ever knew. Strong enough to rebuild. Strong enough to continue. Strong enough to someday, perhaps, trust again, but wisely, cautiously, with my eyes wide open. In the end, that might be the most perfect revenge of all.